Certainly. Acting Mayor Pro Tem Preschlack.
I'm here.
Alderman Novit is absent. Alderman Waldeck.
Present.
Alderman Notes.
Here.
Alderman Powers.
Here.
Alderman Goshgarian.
Here.
Alderman Weber.
Here.
Alderman Walder.
Here.
Mr. Pro Tem Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, thank you. Please all rise and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is comments by the mayor. And I have two comments this evening. The first one is a big thank you to the Deer Path Art League for hosting the 68th Art Fair on the square this past Sunday and Monday. There are over 120 artists with exhibits, and as usual, it was just a great event. And so thanks for everybody who participated and volunteered and attended during the hot summer Labor Day that we had. The second item is an update on our e-scooter issue in the Central Business District. So bear with me, I'm going to frame the issue, and then I'm going to talk about the steps that have been taken to date, and then I'm going to recommend some next steps for the council to say yes or no, to direct the staff to do some next steps. So first, e-scooters have been a hot topic in town, and we appreciate everybody's feedback. It's an important safety issue for everybody, and we appreciate it. Currently, there is no Illinois state law in place addressing the use of e-scooters or other electric devices such as Segways. For example, the state law does not require or prohibit riding e-scooters on or off of the roadway. Since the city's local ordinances generally follow state statutes, the city does not currently have rules or regulations in place regarding e-scooter use. However, the city has had a traditional bike ordinance in the past in the Central Business District for the past 50 years or so, which mandates bike riders to walk their bikes on the sidewalks in the Central Business District, gives pedestrians right of way on sidewalks, and also requires bike riders on streets in the CBD to have a state motor vehicle license. So steps taken to date. The city has encouraged scooter safety as part of a broad public education campaign consistent with our local bike ordinance. Steps taken include Walk Your Wheels, the sidewalk decals in the Central Business District that were put in place early this summer. We've also collaborated with Croya to create social media videos. You may have seen the latest featuring the Bears mascot, Staley, and also some Croya staff and a school resource officer. The city has also published safety tips in its weekly email newsletter and in the quarterly dialogue newsletter over the past few months. We've just recently installed stop and look both ways stencils at the street and the driveway crossings near schools in Lake Forest to remind walkers, bikers, and e-scooter riders to stop at intersections. The city's also done a great job of partnering with the school districts to get the message out about scooter safety with students and parents. We've also positioned community service officers along Deer Path Road and key traffic stops before and after school to help encourage scooter and bike riders to follow safety guidelines. So next steps. So our city prides itself in making fact-based decisions through a thoughtful and deliberate process to implement ordinances to address issues like this. It's fair to say that the e-transport technology has changed dramatically over the last few years, and it warrants us taking a look at our current man-powered bike ordinance to address gaps. So we treat e-vehicles in a similar manner as we do traditional bicycles. So it seems like a prudent first step to start as we continue to collect more information on e-scooters and investigate other ways to keep everyone safe in the Central Business District. To our knowledge, nobody or any other community in the North Shore has not moved to ban e-scooters. But I think a prudent first step is to sync up the bike ordinance to include e-scooters and e-bikes. So if the council agrees, I'd like to ask that the city's staff prepare for our next meeting on September 18th to investigate ways to update the bike ordinance code and add that in agenda for considerations for code amendment at that time. Does everybody agree with that next step?
No, I
And
don't.
if not, please discuss.
So, and I appreciate the fact that we look at things in a thoughtful, deliberate way, but I'm having a real difficult time equating an e-scooter that does 25 or 30 miles an hour with a bicycle. I think the end result of a vehicle traveling that fast can be significantly different with a more catastrophic outcome than a bicycle. And I know we're a data-driven organization, but my concern is that the data that we're looking for, the majority of time, is probably not reported. So the data that we're getting, they talk about 3 types of lies. There are lies, damn lies, and statistics. That data that we're going to get is statistical, but it's not relevant and it's not germane to the situation. My chief concern is not only the children, but also the pedestrians in town, and I think equating an e-scooter with a bicycle is a stretch. And so consequently, I appreciate the will of the council, and wherever we go with this is where we go. But at least my position, independent of that, is that there are significantly more downsides to treating those scooters as simply just bicycles. And I think we should, although I think we should do something now, I think we shouldn't limit ourselves to just treating them just as bicycles. And I'm not proposing that we ban them from the community, but I think it's a realistic expectation that some of our residents have, not all, but some of them would say that those e-scooters don't belong in the central business district. And I think that's a worthwhile discussion. I know we're trying to do incremental steps, but ultimately I think that there has to be a realization that it may just be incremental, because again, if this solution does not bear fruit, I think we have to be open to saying scooters are not just like bicycles, because quite honestly, I just don't think they are. I think your suggestion, Mayor Preschlack, is a good one in terms of at least syncing it up with the bike code, but I think that that's falling short of what the expectations are of the residents. So that's all I have to say on that.
Sure. Yeah, we can talk more about it. I appreciate that. So to be clear, the bike ordinance asks specifically to walk bikes in the central business district, and it establishes right-of-way to pedestrians on the sidewalks. So it's not about equating e-bikes or e-scooters and bicycles.
Right.
It's actually just establishing the same grace and courtesies that we had to invent when bikes came on the scene 50 years ago. So I wouldn't get hung up on equating the two in terms of a technology. It's really about how we all coexist on sidewalks and grace and courtesy. And I really would ask us to give staff a direction on options, so we can do something incremental around syncing up the consistency issue around e-bikes and scooters and bicycles. And we could see how that works for a while. That's option 1. 2, we could go right to a ban, and if people are consistent with what your thinking is, then we can discuss that next time. I think the most important thing is that we give staff and the community the sense that this is a big priority for us, and we're going to evaluate options. I think it's appropriate to do something a bit more incremental to see how behavior changes based on education and light enforcement on regulation. And there's lots of unintended consequences on a ban, and we don't just jump and react and solve something in one meeting. So I'm suggesting that we direct staff to propose option 1 on code adjustments to sync up the ordinance, so an officer can say, or a pedestrian can say, the ordinance says you need to walk that, and they would be consistent with that language. How it's enforced, we can talk about, or if there's will for banning, then we can talk about that as well. But I think we have to have the staff do some homework to give us some options to move forward, and that's what I recommend us do for the 18th. Yeah, go ahead.
I wholly agree, Mayor Preschlack, that I think an incremental approach is a helpful first step. I don't necessarily distinguish getting hit by a bicycle as any less of an issue than getting hit with a scooter. And as staff goes through the evaluation process on a recommendation, it would be helpful to understand what the ramifications are of somebody riding their bicycle uptown, and what do we do about that? And we may very well feel that that's more than enough, or it's not enough.
Anybody else have any comments? Or
I would just like to add, I'd like the staff to also come back and search farther than just the North Shore for other communities who have instituted rules and enforcement options so that they can present that information to us as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. We've always done a nice job of learning from other communities. This is an issue that's popped up. There's nothing happening at the state level. There's other states grappling with it. So yeah, that's an excellent point. Anybody else want to weigh in, or? Eileen, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted the staff to take a look at e-bicycles as well, even as a separate category versus just a pedaling, because in my opinion, if I have an 8-year-old on an electric bike going down the sidewalk, he should have a driver's license. I mean, what's the difference than driving an electric car or a motorcycle or anything else? If you're not pedaling and controlling, you know, your mind's not there focused on what you're doing. It's just press a button and you're gone. So I don't know if we can look at separating that, or what other communities are doing. And then my second comment is in terms of enforcement. I think that's the number one. That's great that we're going to put this ordinance out. That's great we have an ordinance, but it's not being followed. And what's going to be the follow through that our police department's comfortable with, our community's comfortable with, because there should be consequences if we set rules.
Sure, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, Jason, do you want to comment?
Yeah, and I can just jump in on that point to say we've heard the enforcement concerns that have been surfaced within the community, and one of the reasons I think this approach makes sense is that we've recognized that there are just gaps in the existing code language that would allow for enforcement to have any teeth behind it, and the ordinance, as Mayor Pro Tem Preschlack said, was just drafted at a point in time where this technology was never contemplated. So really, the first step in moving forward with more meaningful enforcement will be making sure we have code language that is clear on this topic. So understood where I think I've heard the conversation going. I certainly would welcome at the next meeting some comments and perhaps a presentation from Chief of Police Waldorf as well to get the law enforcement perspective on it. But absolutely, staff can draft some proposed language for the council to discuss at the next meeting.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Any other comments?
I just think whatever it is, we need to move forward quickly, because it's just, it's taken too long. So I think by having our city attorney draft something that we can look at that would be reasonable and important at the next meeting is probably the best suggestion.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
sounds like the will of the council is to have multiple options.
Yeah.
Either syncing it up with the current bike ordinance, which does prohibit the actual riding of these vehicles on sidewalks. It yields right away to pedestrians, and you have to be licensed to be on the street in the city business district to be riding a bicycle. And now enforcement is always, it's education, communication, education, enforcement, compliance. There's opportunity costs, but we'll have to talk about that as a council, right? We'll have to figure out where's the best use of the resources based on, the risk. And if it doesn't change, based on our starting point, we can always ratchet it up. So this is not mutually exclusive conversation. Mm-hmm. It's really a starting point, and then we can see what happens. And if people feel still at risk, or the issue doesn't dissipate based on education or syncing up the ordinances, then we can take further action. And that's what I mean about a deliberative, thoughtful process.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, thank you.
Do we need a motion or anything?
No, it's just direction. We're not voting on anything, so there's no motion. Is that everyone okay with?
Yeah.
The conversation?
that's good.
Great. Did we give you enough direction?
Yeah, no, I think it's clear. So we'll take a first stab at preparing some draft language, and then of course can amend as needed based on council feedback and conversation at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is community or comments by the city manager and our community spotlight.
Great, thank you so much. I have several items under my report for this evening. First, I'm pleased to welcome from the library, and I see they have a pretty full crowd here tonight, both from the staff and the library board, but the executive director of the library, Ishwar Laxman-Orion, as well as the new library board president, Jim Clifton, are here, and really welcome the opportunity not just to hear a little bit about what's happening at the library, what the future holds, but also to recognize and celebrate their achievement in restoring the iconic dome at the library over the summer here. So I won't steal any more of their thunder in talking about that, but happy to welcome them both to the podium.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, City Council. I know I've had the pleasure of interacting with some of you. Look forward to interacting with all of you in the coming weeks, months. Hopefully I'll get this right, and hopefully nobody heckles me in the crowd. I don't know if that's why everybody showed up, but we'll figure it out soon enough. So I'm gonna kind of breeze through the slides, because we actually, in trying to get this into City Council on time, we actually have a great video presentation towards the end. So I'm not diminishing the content in the slides, but there's actually great visuals along with great commentary in the video. So I'll just kind of run through these quickly. But just for those of you unfamiliar, a little bit of history going back to about 2017 when we first uncovered damage to the interior of the dome, the Remissoff murals when you walk into the rotunda of the dome. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. So at that time, it was determined to tarp the dome, that lovely tarp that we've all been looking at for the last 6 years or so, basically since I moved to Lake Forest. So this is my first time actually seeing the dome in my time in Lake Forest. So we took the proactive step of doing that. We have sort of experienced multiple versions of tarping over the years. Version 1 that deteriorated within a year in 2018. Version 2 that was installed in December of 2018. And really it would be replaced because of severe weather or some kind of damage. We'd have to kind of re-tarp the dome. The third and final tarp was installed in 2019. And then ultimately, as you kind of fast forward, this is my time when I started on the board, we prioritized fixing the dome, right? Because that was obviously the most visual kind of negative impact that we've got with the building infrastructure, and that the community appeared to be most concerned with. So we prioritized that. In 2022, the library board ultimately moved forward with working with Wisjani, and then ultimately L. Marshall is our contractor, and we really started kind of hitting the ground running towards the end of 2022. And then in early 2023, as we all know, we saw the scaffolding go up and ultimately the tarp being removed in April, and the team ultimately did a great job to get us to the point where the tarp has been removed and the dome has been repaired here in September of 2023. So, a lot of the work that had to be done was really impressive, the way that everybody worked through it, because the amount of kind of disruption to the operations of the library, in our view, was minimal. The scaffolding, the noise, the work that was done overnight, and Jim Lee, our facilities manager, did a great job working with L. Marshall to minimize the impact of the patrons. But ultimately, we put in a new watertight underlayment, improve the sheet metal, improve the control of water runoff, things like gutters, downspouts that didn't exist, that ultimately were leading to some of the damage that we all experienced. And then ultimately cleaning the skylight and cleaning the limestone. And you'll see some of the images here, down to the, actually, here's a good picture of it. You see some of the staining. And we've presented this to the council before, but just, a lot of the cleaning that was done to kind of bring back the original luster was incredibly impressive. So when you look at, the left, that's what was uncovered. That was what's under the tarp. To the right, that's June of this year. Is what you see now. We had gone through this, when working with Preservation Foundation to really get some input on the material that we ended up using, which, I'm gonna knock wood, it should be lasting for a very long time here. And hopefully none of our lifetimes we're talking about a new dome. And ultimately, this is kind of a neat shot of when you look at the original dome on the left, the middle dome there, what I'll call the second dome. That picture we believe was around the 80s, maybe late 70s, early 80s timeframe. And then our dome now that is covered by beautiful trees that were, probably just planted back there in the middle. So, very impressive. Hopefully you've all seen it. Hopefully it reminds you of how beautiful that dome is, how beautiful the library is. And certainly invite you all, if you haven't been inside yet too, it's much better lit now, I would say, and a much more beautiful space from the inside. We've got some work to do on the murals now and kind of restoring those now that we've fixed the exterior problem, and we're working with the Friends of the Library on that. So exciting things. This is a nice aerial view that really, I think, kind of brings it all home. That's what it looks like now. And then what I thought, let me get back to next steps, and I actually want to just jump ahead here, and then we'll show the video just so you get the benefit of, and this was done by Dronation, by Mike Borkowski at Dronation, who did a great job with this. Let me bring this up for the council.
Hi, my name is John Johnson. I am a trustee on the Lake Forest Library Board, commonly known around town as JJ. My colleague, Brian Bertola, who chairs our Lake Forest Library Board Building Committee, is going to give you a status update.
So the current status of the dome is that it's complete, and we couldn't be happier to bring this back to life. It's one of the many iconic architectural features of Lake Forest. You may have noticed in the last 6 months that the project was underway with scaffolding and work going on at the library, but this project really started approximately 2 years ago, working hand in hand with the city, with the community, with library staff, and the Board of Trustees to try to bring this iconic architectural feature of Lake Forest back to its glory. Over the last few years, the dome had been under a tarp, and that was because it was experiencing water leakage. One of the interesting features of the dome project is that we work closely with our team members to help manage the water coming off the dome. And so we added a secondary gutter system up at the top curvature of the dome that helped to alleviate pressure of water coming down the face of the limestone. In addition to the secondary gutter system, exterior masonry, tuck pointing, and limestone cleaning was done to restore these masonry features. And on the inside of the dome, additional brick repair was done and insulation added to the underside of the dome. Finally, at the top of the dome, glass skylight panes were replaced. In addition, interior cleaning was done to the inside lay light over the rotunda to allow light to better transmit into that space. To replace the lead-coated copper that was originally on the structure, we used a product that's more environmentally friendly and readily available today that will help reduce staining of the limestone, called Freedom Gray. Underneath the Freedom Gray, an additional waterproofing membrane was applied to ensure longevity.
This beloved library building was designed by Edwin Clark, a famous architect, and construction was completed in 1931. In 1984, we had to fully restore the dome, and we continued to use the original material, lead-coated copper. This time we finished, as Brian has told you, the dome. It's zinc-coated copper, and we're hoping it's going to last another 50 years. We're glad the project is done. We're thankful to the community for supporting us during the construction, and we're delighted to be able to say, come to the library and learn something new.
With Grammarly Go, you can do anything from automating repetitive tasks to brainstorming content ideas, all just by entering a simple prompt. But how do you write an effective one that gives you exactly what you need? Here are some tips to help. 1. Start with an action verb. Action verbs such as draft, write, make, or create tell Grammarly.
That was not a plug, by the way. I don't know.
Here, it wasn't.
Thank you, Desiree. So, you know, as I sit here, you know, I started as our board president since July. You know, in a lot of ways, I see a lot of similarities with where the library is at, with where the city is at in terms of what's next, right? We just finished a community-wide survey. You know, we look forward to getting feedback with the library section of that survey, using that data to help drive next steps. You know, to me, it's now we have a strategic plan that is effectively coming due at the end of this year. It's about thinking about at least the next 3 to 5 years. So engaging the community, engaging the staff, the board to help execute a new strategic plan. And we have a new director who's going to set the vision for the foreseeable future of the Lake Forest Library. We have a lot of longstanding issues that we now have to address within the building itself, but also about what the meaning of a library is in the 21st century. Is it just a place where you go and get a book? No, clearly not. So we have to think more big picture, more strategically about what role we play in the community. I think one of the things that was most exciting about just the Dome project itself was the passion that the community had for how we can make this as beautiful as we all knew it to be back in 1931. And so I think that's really kind of the next step, is trying to figure out how we engage all key stakeholders and get feedback from community survey, setting the next strategic plan, working with the staff, working with the board, working with interested parties in the community about where we take the library for the next 125 years. Ishwar, anything you'd like to add? I'll invite Ishwar up as well.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, City Council, and good evening, residents of Lake Forest. I stand here actually representing all the wonderful staff of the Lake Forest Library that that really works so tirelessly day in and day out and serve have served generations of Lake Forest residents and will continue to serve generations of Lake Forest residents for the next 125 years or more. And I want to especially call out my friend Jim Lee, who is our facilities manager, who actually got a Dome haircut for this day, who actually coordinated the entire the repair and the restoration work with the architect, with the community, and the contractor. But I just want to take a couple of minutes to just highlight some of the events in this newsletter. You can see the wide range of activities and events that that the library does that touches so many lives, across all ages. And I just want to highlight, Jim, if you can pass this out. We have a community-wide read coming up. The title of the book is The Seed Keeper. This is a book where we actually invite all residents of the community to read along. The author actually is going to be in town on October 19th and 20th this year. So please mark your calendar and plan to attend one of those events. It's one of our signature library events. And this is also in support of the community-wide Native Voices initiative that Lake Forest has been. Very soon we'll be introducing a library app. So you'll actually be able to have a digital library card on your phone and be able to do all the things that you normally would do, access to the collections, access to events, programs, what have you. So again, in closing, the library has been around for a very, very long time, 125 years to be precise. And we intend to be around for the next 125 or more years. We have survived many, many pandemics, many economic, social changes, economic downturns, wars. And with every one of those instances, we have come out stronger. And the reason for that is we have always remained true to our core values and our purpose, our mission, our mission-driven purpose of serving the collective good. And as long as we stay focused on that, I think, the library is going to have a very rich, very, very rich future. So I look forward to working with all of you on taking the library to the next step, to the next stage. And I want to thank you all, and especially the City of Lake Forest, for all the ways you support us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for that presentation, and thank you, Jim, for your service, and JJ for your service, and Joanne Desmond, who's here as well on the board. Thank you so much for your service. Everybody on the library board and the Preservation Foundation. It's a real, it's a gem of a building, and it needed some love and care, and you've done beautiful work, and I know there's a lot of goodwill and support for the library, and I'm first in line on that. And so we just look forward to how you thoughtfully continue to improve it and address the issues that you have. So thank you so much for your leadership and your dedication to that building. It's really, from 18, I came on in 18, and to see it now, and it's really quite remarkable. So thank you so much. Any other comments or questions for the library? All right, awesome. All right, Jason, sorry, number 2.
Great. And again, on behalf of the staff too, it's been a pleasure working with library staff. Congratulations to all of you, and job well done on the project. Next on the agenda, I'm pleased to invite tonight Julia Lund, Director of Engagement, and Susan Lenz, Senior Vice President of Community Conservation from Lake Forest Open Lands Association. I think everyone in the room tonight knows that Lake Forest Open Lands is one of the most cherished and revered institutions that exists in our community. The amount of good work that's been done over the decades, I think, speaks for itself. And here to share a little bit about what the future holds and perhaps to plug one of their signature events coming at the end of the month is Julie and Susan. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Jason. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. I am Susan Lenz, Senior Vice President of Community Conservation, and I'm joined here this evening, as Jason mentioned, with Julia Lund, who's our Director of Engagement. On behalf of the Board of Governors, talented staff, and dedicated volunteers, we are excited to have this opportunity to provide our community with an update on Lake Forest Open Lands. Lake Forest Open Lands has been planning and implementing conservation efforts for over 56 years. And like most land trusts nationally, we started as a true grassroots organization with a group of concerned citizens focused on preserving the rare habitats that make up our beautiful community. Through these 56 years, it has been our mission to engage and expand our community's commitment to nature. The over 900 acres of native prairies, savannas, wetlands, grassland, forest, and ravines that we have been able to preserve encompass some of the rarest ecosystems in the Midwest. Our community is a connected matrix of habitats and healthy open spaces leading to clean air, clear water, and healthy lives for everyone. It has been our privilege to steward these incredible local natural landscapes, ensure that all are welcome and able to fully experience nature. By protecting these special places, we make a promise for our community that the land will be there for us, for our children, for their children, and forever. In the spring, we had a successful opening of the Green Nature Preserve at McCormick Ravine. The temporary signs will be replaced very soon with permanent signage. Stay tuned also for breaking ground at our new Carruthers Nature Preserve that's located on Wesley. We know that connecting and engaging with people with our historic natural landscapes is central to our sense of place, a well-documented component of public health and subjective well-being. We call this community conservation. And when we save nature, we save ourselves. As we all know, Lake Forest is truly a special place, and we are fortunate to have all of this with easy access right here within our own community. What an incredible place to live and work. Our 16 miles of trails and 9 preserves are open 365 days a year for all to enjoy. And lately, we've been laser focused on the all part. There is a neighborhood preserve within walking distance of all 4 wards.
Our partnerships have deep roots. For nearly 30 years, Lake Forest Open Lands has collaborated with District 67, providing hands-on outdoor classroom field study, reinforcing their classroom curriculum. Our programs get kids kindergarten to high school outside in the fresh air, immersed in the natural sciences. Studies show children who spend more time in nature perform better on standardized tests, have more enthusiasm for school, and increased attendance and cognition. Our organization's land acknowledgement offers tribute with gratitude to those who came before us. And we honor this intentionally by including Native cultures throughout our programming. Our community-wide Native Voices initiative runs through the end of this November. The success of this year-long community initiative has us well prepared to support the recently passed state mandate, which addresses Native American history in Illinois public schools. Our commitment positions us to support our local district as they implement new curriculum with the passing of House Bill 1633 in the Illinois State Legislature this past month. The Center for Conservation Leadership at Lake Forest Openlands engages partners throughout Lake County, breaking down barriers to the natural world and offering resources and immersive nature experiences to inspire and activate conservation communities where people live and work and play. Studies consistently show time spent in the natural world improves mental and physical well-being. Our CCL participants have found calm serenity netting a pond at one of our local preserves, quiet peace listening to birdsong, and absolute awe stargazing in Yellowstone National Park. We all know that Lake Forest Openlands is a very special place, and community collaborations make us all stronger. The community of Lake Forest, as our name states so clearly, values the beauty and benefits of our natural surroundings. Lake Forest Openlands nurtures and engages this sense of community through a variety of partnerships throughout our local Lake Forest Lake Bluff community, including public and private groups, as well as nonprofit and corporate partnerships. Through all of this, we are engaging the community in the natural world. Sorry, the slides are wrong. We have listened to our community and offer a variety of programming on weekdays and weekends, evenings and daytimes for people of all ages and all interests to come out to our preserves and engage in nature. The evidence keeps coming in. Nature is good for us. It restores, it de-stresses, and it relaxes. Lake Forest, we are proud to be your natural resource.
Much like the well-run city of Lake Forest depends on great innovators and leadership, we have been fortunate to experience the same rich fabric of talent and leadership throughout our 56 years. In celebration for the start of fall, we invite you to join us for our annual Bagpipes and Bonfire event, Sunday, September 24th, 4 to 7 p.m. at Middle Fork Farm Nature Preserve. It takes hundreds of volunteers to pull off this annual community-wide celebration. We welcome all who want to volunteer with us, or please come celebrate with us. Tickets are on sale now, from pack your own picnic with the general admission to full dinner and open bar options. I'll get to enjoy the entertainment, one of my favorites, the free yummy donuts, and more. As we said before, we are breaking down barriers to nature for all. If you haven't heard about it or seen it yet, please stop by or check out our website. The all-terrain chair housed at our Melody Farm campus with an enclosed trailer for transport is available for reservation through our website. From the experiences that I have observed personally with those that have utilized it, it's truly an incredible resource for those that have mobility challenges. It allows them to get outside and fully immerse themselves and experience nature. There's truly something for everyone. So come join us for our fall events. Check out our website for details on these programs and more, including our popular ongoing walks, our bird hikes, our Friday conservation cocktails, stewardship opportunities, and more. We have a QR code there as well, which will take you to our homepage with all our events and information. Thank you again for this opportunity, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Julia and Susan. Really appreciate it. It's such a special organization, and is just one of the gems of Lake Forest. So thank you so much for all your work. I have a question on the John and Jeannie Green Preserve. How operational is it? How much visiting has it gotten? What's going on there? And just maybe give us an update a little. So exciting.
Sure, great question. Thank you so much. Yes, it's fully operational. It's fabulous. We've gotten a lot of great feedback on it. Like I said, we're getting those temporary signs. We're going to put up some permanent signage on it. But it's been great. We've had some bird walks out there. We've had stewardship events. We've had people that are just, walking out there and enjoying the day. So it's been a really good, it's a gem in the community and on the lake shore.
We're hosting our first school program there this Friday.
Outstanding.
Great.
Thank you. Any other questions for Open Lands? Okay, well, thank you so much again. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you, Julie and Susan, again, and good luck with the event at the end of the month. I have just a couple more quick informational items. First, a reminder to the community that our fall Coffee in the Park with Your Alderman series begins this Saturday with Ward 4 at Northcroft Park Pavilion at 8:30 a.m. and followed by Ward 3 at the West Park Pavilion at 10 a.m. Dana, do we have a slide on this, or? All right, I'll just share this then. And then next weekend on Saturday, September 16th, we have Ward 1 at the North Beach Pavilion at 8:30 a.m., followed by Ward 2 at the South Park Pavilion at 10 a.m. And so a reminder to residents, we're trying this as a supplement in addition to the more formalized ward meetings that occur every spring. Really, this is an informal opportunity for residents to engage with their elected representatives, ask questions, offer suggestions. So there are no formal presentations planned, just the presence of your elected leadership who are more than happy to hear what's on your mind. So we hope everyone will come out and enjoy. And then last, because when he just left, but Library Board Clifton had made, Board President Clifton had made a reference to the community survey. I wanted to provide an update to the council and the community that we did receive the preliminary raw data associated with the survey. We're compiling that, working with the firm that we've engaged with on this, both to present the data and also develop an executive summary. We look forward to sharing that both with the council and with the entire community next month. And if there are no questions on either of those, then that would conclude my report.
Any questions? No. Okay, thank you, City Manager Wisha. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is opportunity for citizens to address the City Council. And so I have a Kristen Strom from Spruce. Please try to keep the comments under 3 minutes. If you want to say something that somebody else has said, you can just say echo or ditto the other person. And if we don't respond after you say something, we may just wait until everybody has spoken on a topic. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. My name is Kristen Strom. I've lived in Lake Forest for almost 35 years. Raised 4 kids, and I live near the high school. Last year we had a situation where some very unsavory people had made their way onto the high school property, and as a result of those individuals, I know the high school passed some trespassing rules for visitors of the campus to follow. It was almost immediate. It was wonderful. We haven't had any problems since. But we now, I'm sure you're all aware, have homeless people, or one man for sure, living in the bushes on the corner of Wisconsin and Oakwood. And my husband and I went and spoke to the police, and they said their hands were tied regarding what they could do. If he wants to live in the bushes, he can live in the bushes. And their hands are tied. And so I beg the city to please take on this issue. Set some guidelines. What happens if they start moving into open lands? I mean, what are we gonna do? We had a gentleman living in the train station for quite a few months. It frightens me to think how quickly things could change in our beautiful community. So please, immediately start discussions of how you can get creative and work around the state laws to protect the residents. because this is all okay until, you know, this man in the bushes grabs somebody's daughter or son. It's kind of like the scooters, right? What do we do? And we want to prevent horrible things from happening here. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else have any comments? Yes, please, come on up, introduce yourself, and
Good evening, Alderman, Jason, city staff, and those joining us in the audience. Excuse me. I'm Marcy Kerr, Executive Director of the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation. And I'd like to just give a brief notice of a very interesting program the foundation has planned for Sunday, September 17th at Gorton at 1 o'clock. It's titled The Value of Sensitive Development in Lake Forest. And it's a follow-up to our continuing conversation on how to sensitively honor and enhance our architectural heritage while successfully moving forward to continue to grow and be a vibrant community. The speaker, Stephen Sims, is a professor and founding director of the Center for Historic Preservation at Notre Dame University, splitting his time teaching between South Bend and Rome. He is a highly respected expert on classical architecture and historic preservation, and he has authored several articles and books, including The Future of the Past. Much of his work over the past several years has been on promoting harmonious new development in historic settings, allowing for change and growth without sacrificing historic character. He's a colleague of Stefanos Polyzotis, who did an excellent program for us last spring titled Lake Forest Forward, which many of you attended and can still be viewed on our website. This program with Stephen Sims is the perfect next chapter. We hope you'll join us on September 17th. I've left some flyers, and I also gave some flyers to Jason to hand out to the aldermen. And you can go to our website, lfpf.org, for more information and to register. The event is free of charge, but we ask you to RSVP if possible. Okay, hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Anybody else from the public have any comments? Yes, please. Please introduce yourself and where you live.
Bob Shaw, 888 Gloucester Crossing, Lake Forest. Mayor Pro Tem Preschlek, members of council, staff, and members of the audience. I came here tonight to support Jim and Ishwar and my fellow library board members. That's not why I'm up here, though. It was almost 10 years ago, it's the last time I came up as a member of the public, and the subject was gun control. I was in Sandy Hook on that day back in December 14, where my daughter had set up the triage unit. I had two grandchildren in Sandy Hook Elementary School, first grade and second grade. Why do I mention that background? E-scooters. Your comments earlier tonight just really touched my emotion. I probably shouldn't be up here, but I can't help but, number one, say thank you for bringing up this matter and giving it some attention. Secondly, I'm a cyclist. I've dealt with e-bikers and all this stuff. Increasingly over the years, bikes are very, very different than scooters. Where they're done, where one is using them is typically very, very different. But I'm here because I was almost a victim. I've been a victim in a gun issue many, many years ago. Fortunately, escaped from it. But back in May, before school got out, I was walking out of the USPS store on the north side of Deer Path, and I looked to my left for oncoming, quote, traffic, and before I could turn my head, an e-scooter was blowing by me from the right up close to the building, going the wrong way, with two, I guess, about 7th grade girls from Deer Path School. They were having a good time. They kept going. They were shocked, but they kept going. I'm sure they didn't know what risk they were in and what danger they were potentially putting other people at. I narrowly missed getting hit. I almost came in here at the next council meeting to talk about it. I did talk to our police chief, and he said, before coming in, and he said, hey, our hands are tied, we can't do anything. I went away, but the emotion tonight got to me, and I said, I can't walk out of here without commenting. I would urge that there be a real sense of urgency on this. It can't be overstated. These kids don't know what they're doing. Maybe our education program can get it started, but we all have kids, and just like us, we don't learn instantly. And let's try to do something before there's an incident. If I could play God, I would temporarily ban them. That's not my style in life, but to do that not as a knee-jerk reaction, but to preclude an incident before we can get our hands around what we really want to do. So I just encourage every rapid effort. I encourage staff to think about if it was them walking out of the building, if it was their child, totally unwittingly driving one of those e-scooters and ending up in a serious incident. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Anyone else, please come on up and state your name and your address, and thank you.
My name is Taylor Cottom. I live in 460 Spruce, in between Lake Forest High School and Sheridan School. First of all, I'd like the presentation on the Lake Forest open lands. I had a son who, during this, he was a Boy Scout. One of them actually made major modifications to the trail by Bennett Meadows, if you know where that is. Also, they reworked one of the bridges and built one of the bridges. So I've been in the community for over 11 years, and I really enjoy Lake Forest. And I wanted to echo what was said earlier about some of the problem with the homeless, and I would call them some of the faux homeless, because a lot of them camp out in front of Jewel Osco and Fresh Market. And speaking with them, I just think it needs to be brought to your attention. They are not just there innocent, but speaking with the people at Jewel Osco, one of the gentlemen go in there every day and shoplift their breakfast and their lunch. So it starts out innocent, but then it could escalate to another level. And that's just something I think you guys need to be aware of with the people who are panhandling in front of the grocery stores. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, please come on up and state your name and where you live. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Annika Cottom. That's my father. Live at the same home. I just also wanted to say something about the homelessness. Specifically the guys around Jewel Osco and Fresh Market. As a former student of LFHS, I participated in what was known as the citrus sale, and I would sell citrus to raise money for an orchestra trip to Europe. And while doing that, I would sell around the community, and I passed by Fresh Market, sold to some people, but I just found that it was very uncomfortable selling at the same place where the quote-unquote homeless person was selling at, just because, we got into some conversations, and it was just awkward because he felt, or I felt, that he was communicating that I was stealing his customers as if it was like a business. He also communicated to me that it was just like awkward interactions, and I saw him interact with other minors like on the streets, just like sometimes it was like a nice gesture, but sometimes it also was just off-putting. And yeah. And then the other point I wanted to touch on was the e-scooters. Personally, I like the e-scooters. Kids will be kids. I understand why people may be uncomfortable with it, and I don't want to invalidate their feelings, but I think kids can take calculated risk, and I think it's just another step, especially like when we're growing up, we learn how to drive. I think the e-scooter is just a little bit like kind of the before you drive, learn the road, like the rules of the road kind of a step. Yeah. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Thank you.
May I ask a question of this young lady?
Sure.
Thank you for coming up. Do you wear a helmet
On the
on the
e-scooters?
e-scooter?
It depends. Not really.
So no.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any public comment? Okay, well, thank you. On the e-scooters, we're talking about it, we're thinking about it. We obviously have, some varying degrees of education and light regulation versus an outright ban. And I think, to be fair to the real mayor and to all of the aldermen, we're going to wait till next meeting so staff can do some work to give us some options. And I think that's the best course of action, but the message is we hear you, and thank you for your input. We really, really appreciate that. And Jason, do you want to touch on the other issue that was raised this evening in public comment?
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to. And I just want to acknowledge to those in the audience, certainly we've heard the concerns that have been conveyed by many in the community, and again, happy to take a minute to just talk about what the city's efforts have been to date in response to those without housing in the community. And really, most of our efforts have centered around getting long-term assistance and resources for those who are in need. And we recognize that those resources don't exist in Lake Forest, but we do know that they are out there elsewhere throughout the county. And we have been trying proactively to help those in need to get access to those long-term resources. We have a dedicated social worker who's been out there on a daily basis in regular conversation with those in need of help to try to direct them towards long-term solutions. We've also been pushing out messaging on our various communications platforms, both in our e-news and the upcoming dialogue that's going out that is really, I think, trying to educate residents that there are more productive ways to help those in need and to be part of the solution rather than providing short-term resources, whether it be food or money. I think it's well-intentioned within the community, but I think we pretty well understand that providing those short-term resources in many instances actually disincentivizes people from seeking the long-term care or resources that they need. So we will continue our efforts to try to educate the public on that. We have been enforcing local ordinances where they exist, for example, prohibiting structures from being erected on public property. I do want to say that while I very much appreciate the safety concerns people expressed, I want people to have confidence that our police department is regularly monitoring the business districts to ensure that there is no threat to the broader public. So we're going to continue to think about how to address these issues as they come up, but I will say we do that obviously in close consultation with the city attorney to ensure we remain proactive in addressing the concerns, but also that we're in compliance with existing state statutes, as some have referenced, that really do limit the scope of what the city can do. So we're going to continue to work on it, and more to come as we have more information, but if that's of any help to the audience, I thought I'd share that now.
Yeah, thank you for the update, and thank you again, everybody, for your input. And we, of course, are available. Our contact information is on the website. If there's phone calls or follow-up questions that you have on any of these matters. The next item are committee reports. There are none this evening, so that's...
And I'll just say, too, I'm happy to stick around later if anyone from the audience wants to discuss the issue further, or, hopefully where you can contact me here at City Hall. I'm always happy to discuss it with residents.
Okay. Thank you. Items for omnibus vote consideration is the next agenda item, and there's 10 of them. So bear with me as I click through them. The first one is approval, August 7th, 2023, City Council meeting minutes. Second is approval of a check register for the period of July 29th through August 25th, 2023. Third is approval to enter into a professional services agreement with Azavar to provide compliance auditing services of revenue sources collected through city ordinances and revenues passed through the state. The fourth is consideration of a request to waive the fidelity bond requirement in connection with holding a raffle in the city of Lake Forest for the Spirit of 67 Foundation and Northwestern Medicine Lake Forest Hospital, approval by motion. The fifth is an approval of an amendment to the previously approved regularly scheduled meetings of the Lake Forest City Council for the year 2023. The sixth item is approval of a recommendation from the Public Works Committee to award a bid for the Public Safety Building chiller replacement project to Oak Brook Mechanical Services, Inc. in the amount of $236,800 to include a 10% contingency in the amount of $23,200 for a grand total amount of $260,000. Number 7 is approval of a recommendation from the Public Works Committee to award a 2-year HVAC preventative maintenance contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, MK Industries, Inc., in the amount of $120,480. 8 is approval of easement agreements for the Deer Path and Westmoreland Sidewalk Connectivity Project between the City of Lake Forest and the Northwestern Lake Forest Hospital. Number 9, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission for a building scale variance for 845 Maplewood Road. First reading, and if desired by the City Council, final approval. And number 10, consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Zoning Board of Appeals for 845 Maplewood Road and 845 Northmore Road. First reading, and if desired by the City Council, final approval. Does anyone want to take any of these separately to discuss or vote on? No. Thank you. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the 10 omnibus items as presented?
So moved.
Second. Okay, roll call vote, please, City Clerk.
Alderman Walther?
Aye.
Alderman Waldeck?
Aye.
Alderman Notes?
Aye.
Alderman Powers?
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack?
Aye.
Alderman Gushgarian?
Aye.
Alderman Weber?
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Okay, outstanding. Next item on the agenda is 6, old business. There are none this evening. There are also, on the next item, no new business. So this gives us our 8th agenda item, additional items for discussion, comments by city council members. Alderman.
Thank you, Mayor Preschlack. Just wanted to announce for the community that the pre-registration for the new curbside compost collection is underway, and that's a partnership with Waste Not Compost. And you were on the Environmental Sustainability Committee with me, along with former Alderman Melanie Rummel, and Mr. Powers here is now sitting in the seat along with Alderman Novitt, and we are so excited that curbside pickup begins in 2 weeks from today. So I wanted to highly encourage everyone in our community, not just limited to residents, but to businesses and schools. I found out today that Sheridan School has signed up and begun onboarding for the lunchroom composting program. So way to go, Sheridan School, for paving the way. And it's very simple. There's no long-term commitment, no cancellation fees, and it's for a nominal fee, and we'll get this correct, $14 a month as an exclusive Lake Forest resident. Bi-weekly pickup with an airtight 5-gallon compost container. So to make a great impact in the world for something very small, sign up and try it.
That's great, thank you. How do you sign up if you want to do it? Where do you go?
So where you can go, they have a Waste Not dedicated webpage at on Lake Forest City's website, as well as Ms. Olson has been sending out in the communications. It was in the e-blast. It's been on Facebook, Instagram. It's been all over, but just go to the website.
Outstanding, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any comments or things they'd like to discuss? Okay, hearing none. There being no further business, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
How about a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hold on, John.